Hello, chess fans. I don't think there's much of you here. It's a bit of an awkward time of the day, but I need to do my training. So yeah. I mean, you guys can obviously always just check this later. Let me just get into this. There we go. I hope the sound is fine. It looks like it's doing okay. Got the wrong board on the thing, but that's fine. That's fine. Let's just go back. There we go. That's the right one. Yeah. Okay. So we're gonna pick up where we left off yesterday. Yesterday's position that we did, we started with a big thing about pawn structure. So we're gonna continue on with that today. But we're gonna add a bunch of things. What's interesting is I'm gonna read it out to you in the book that we're busy with. Chess strategy for club players. Again, I mentioned that do not be confused by the name of the book, thinking that, oh, that sounds like it's rubbish because it sounds like it's for easy, weak players. The book is actually much more complicated than that. I don't think the title does it justice. Some coffee, because it's still morning. Okay, so um, let me just read to you quickly what they're adding now in the next section here. Basically, they are talking about a book that Karpov wrote with some other dude. Let me just see what the guy's name is. Mazukovich. There we go. Tried that one. Obviously, he's Russian. And they basically said that you can dumb it down. Any assessment from a position point of view, you can dumb down to 7 different things. Okay. So, I'm going to mention those 7 different things, and maybe what I'll just do is I'll put a little thing in the chat at the bottom, and I'll just write them out there. Same with on the YouTube channel as well. I'll write them out there just so you can obviously read them as well. Okay, so the first thing that they want is they want to know what is the material balance. So, is it equal? Is there, do you have maybe, let's say, a rook for a piece and 2 pawns, something like that. Just is there any imbalances, or is anybody up or down material? So that's number 1. Number 2 is there any direct threats? So obviously, is the guy threatening mate? Is the guy threatening to win your queen? Is the why? Is there any obvious threats? Because in general, we mostly have to deal with obvious threats. Okay, how is the safety of both kings? Okay, so that's the next one. Next one is pawn structure. Now, under pawn structure, they have a couple of things here. Under pawn structure, they say we look at where are the open lines and diagonals, because obviously the pawn structures, for that, it matters to figure out which, what, where. And then, are there any strong squares? So good places for pieces to be, etc. Like outposts, yada yada. Who is controlling the center? Of course, center very important. And who has more space and where on the board does he have it? So those are the 4 things that they put here under pawn structure. Then on number 5, maybe I guess, okay, well, you just made it a little bit more concise. So, and then number 5 here, he has which pieces are active and which are not. So, what I'm going to do again is like yesterday, I'm going to just take this exact position. Now, why is my chat just connecting? Come on, connect faster then. So what I'm going to do again like yesterday is I'm going to take off all the pieces and just leave the pawns and the kings on the board. Okay, so here you can see the position like that. So here we can tell a lot about the position from the pawn structure because we don't have all the pieces messing with our heads here. So let's look at the squares, the diagonals, open files, etc., etc. So we have a complete open file here. Okay, obviously double way here. Then we have a semi-open file here and a semi-open file here. Okay, if you don't know what a semi-open file is, it just means that it's open from one side of the player. So there's still a pawn from one side of the player still on that file. If there's an open file, it means that there are no pawns on the file. Pieces don't count for this, obviously. Okay, so that is the files. Diagonals, there are quite a few, obviously. There's this nice diagonal here, which means that, the king looks a little funky. So, there could be some possible king issues. There's lots of decent diagonals down here as well, maybe. This is a very good diagonal for black, possibly to have. What else? What else we got? What else did we say here? Okay, who's controlling the center? Looks fairly equal at this point in the center, maybe. Obviously we both have these pawns that can affect the center at this point. Okay. Who has the most space and where on the board? Okay. So in most cases, okay, on this side of the board, on the king side of the board, so this side of the board, let me just, arrow this one up for you. On this side of the board, I would definitely say white has the more space, okay? Because white can put all these pieces on all these little dark squares and white squares possibly eventually as well. Just get rid of all these arrows real quick. Oh, I added another one. Ah, that's why. Okay. And obviously on the queen side, so this side of the board, black definitely has the more space because he has possible outposts and things like that as well. Of course, we can push it away with c3, which is important to note. Okay, so that pretty much tells us from a pawn structure point of view. Okay, now we go back to the original position. And we go look at all the other things. Okay, material-wise, quick look reveals that it is equal. We do have a... Oh, that's the other thing. Let me just go back to the pawn structure again. Sorry. We do have a 3 versus 2 majority on this side of the board. So if it comes down to this exact position, then highly likely white has good chances of winning this position. Something like, let's say, c3, and then obviously b4, creating a pass pawn. If he plays c5, then the king comes in here. King to b5 if we need to. So yeah, so this is just a losing pawn endgame for black. Interesting to note. Again, endgame wise, white is better. So trading off pieces in the end most likely would just be an easy win for white as well. Depends on what pieces stay on the board. Okay, let's go back out of here. Okay, so now we look at the material again. So we know we have a 3 versus 2 majority on this side. Let me just make this side yellow. There we go. And he has a 4 versus 3 majority on the king side. Okay. Are there any immediate threats? Anything immediate? It is white to play. So are there any immediate threats? Let's throw a little hello out there in the chat. I don't think there's anyone here. Like I said, it is a bit of a weird time. But obviously with the weekend and stuff, it might be a bit better as well during this time for the Europeans and Indians and Far East people. So yeah, okay. From a threat point of view, I don't think there's any immediate threats. Everything seems to be defended right now. This rook is defending the c2 pawn. So we don't have to worry about any queen takes d1 options possibly. Okay. How's the safety of the kings? Well, I mean, again, white has more space on the king side. So I would say that black's king, to be honest, I say it's pretty equal. You know what I mean? Black's king does have this possibility of these dark squares being not so great. Okay? But there is a dark square bishop still on the board. So if the bishop comes to, like, let's say g7, it should be fine. And, there is this semi-open file here for white on the king's side, which could mean that his king is a little awkward. But again, there's no real pieces to come and, hit us on that. So for now, king safety doesn't seem to be the biggest factor here. So pawn structure, we already looked at that. We know where the open files are. We know where nice diagonals are, etc., etc. And then which pieces are active and which are not. Now, there's a beautiful question. Okay, let's look at black first. We are playing for white, but let's look at black first. Okay, black has a decent knight here. It is attacking the c2 pawn, so that does mean that our rook is a bit stuck for now. Okay, so that's a good knight. This bishop's not doing too much. This knight is okay, but also a little awkward because the pawn's on g6. Okay, so because this pawn is on g6, this knight, the protection of this knight looks a little bit awkward. Okay, and like I mentioned, this outpost can be shoved away with c3. Okay, the queen is fine here. Maybe we'd rather have a rook on this open file. Rooks are much better open files here. Let me see if I can finish my coffee. And then, okay, these rooks are obviously not doing anything as of yet. This rook, okay, so let's look at white's rooks. This rook is not doing anything as of yet. This rook is on the semi-open file already, and it does mean that this rook could possibly come here as well, maybe. Definite options there. His bishop is on a good diagonal. I mean, it's definitely in a good spot. Keeps control over the c5 square as well, so that the dark square bishop from black cannot go there and do anything pins or whatever. So bear that in mind, because obviously, you think, oh, bishop h6 would be a great idea. Obviously, we can quickly see that bishop h6 is not a possibility. And bishop h6, to be honest, will help him, because after rook e8, he wants to play bishop f8 and g7 anyway. So you know what I'm saying. So that's the kind of thing that you have to take in consideration as well. Okay, this knight is not great. I mean, it could do better, but where? Where? c5 is a good square for that knight, or c4 is a good square for that knight. Just out of curiosity. This would be a good square for the knight. Okay, this bishop is not looking so great either, but I do need to mention that white has the bishop pair, which means that the white squares, the light squares, can become a big problem for black, because he doesn't have a white square bishop. Okay, just something to remember in general as well. And if we look at the queen side here, you'll see that these squares do look a little bit awkward. Okay, and this pawn could become a target, because it doesn't want to move ever, because then this knight has these beautiful outposts as well if that pawn moves. Okay, so that's something to note. But yeah, the knight and the bishop is not so great yet. This rook is not so great, etc., etc. Okay, so that's our general assessment. I would say that white is slightly better, because he does have a space advantage. He does have the 3 versus 2 advantage on the queen side. Hi, Alvin. How's the sound, guys? Just because I know that sometimes it's a little bit soft, but I'm sure if you just up the volume on your computer or whatever, then it should be fine. Because I don't want to put it too loud from my side, because if I do, then there tends to be a lot of static noise in the background as well. So I'm trying to find that beautiful balance where I don't have any background noise. Okay, so basically we just looked, Alvin, we just looked at a bit of assessment from this position. Like I said, I will put down the 7, well, actually, technically there is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 things that they looked at here to just quickly assess a position. Okay. Guess it didn't really take us that quick, huh? It's got 10-minute assessment. But okay, I mean, obviously I'm explaining it to you guys as well, so it does take a bit longer. Assessment, if you get good at this, it'll, quickly assessing a position will take you 1 or 2 minutes to do what we just did. So if you're playing, obviously, a classical chess game, then, it's perfectly good. Okay, now we start looking at ideas. Okay, we already know that obviously we'd love to do something about the king side on black side. We don't have any weaknesses in our camp currently. We do have this open file here that we might want to do more with. So that is something interesting. So now we start looking at candidate moves. Go away, arrow. So we start looking at ideas. So we want to, like I say, occupy this this file. So maybe we can. Okay, let's look at the first obvious move. Okay. So rook d2 looks like a very obvious move. Okay. Okay. Let's say black plays queen c7. Makes sense, yes. It becomes a little bit of a tricky question of what now. Because we still need to find a good square for the queen. Okay, maybe queen e2. Is there any threats? I don't think there's any threats, so we don't have to worry about anything as of yet. But now maybe, okay, which rook? Should we say this rook rather? Because this rook can still go onto the semi-open b file as well. So it's a quick assessment, when you have to pick a rook, the rook on f8 doesn't have any other good file to go to. So rather put him on the open file, and the other rook can still go onto the semi-open file, the B file. So after something like rook here, I don't like this. I mean, now what? Now he takes here, we take, maybe he goes here. We're just trading off pieces here. And remember, we need a rook to defend the C2 square. So that doesn't look so great. So maybe this is not as cool as we would have liked. Okay, one of the big things that I did mention earlier is obviously the king side square weaknesses, but there is a dark squared bishop. Then I also mentioned the white squares. Because we have a white square, a white squared bishop, a white colored bishop, the white squares could be a tricky one. So this was one of the squares that we looked at, which was a really nice square. We just needed to decide what piece we should try and get there. That was a question. What piece should get there? Now we want to vacate the open file, so maybe we can move queen e2 with queen c4, and then obviously the rook can go to d1. Looks like a logical idea. Is there maybe better idea? Because we also have queen f3 with the same idea. Now queen f1, sorry. Now queen f1 is interesting because with queen f1 we have extra pressure on this knight on f6. That makes sense. It's a definite interest. Okay, so let's say we look at something like queen f1. New main line. Let's just slap a little new main line in there. Now black obviously wants to be ready for this as well. Okay, he's got to be careful. Okay, now obviously rook d1 is now the threat. So black doesn't have to do anything about it as of yet. As of yet, he doesn't have to. Okay, there is a cute little thing, maybe queen c8, because now he's threatening knight g4. In which case, obviously, we'll either have to give off the white squared bishop, which we don't want to do, or we obviously have to trade off this one. But this is bad if we lose the dark squared bishop, because then this bishop is going to become very strong on this diagonal here. So, so that's not something we want. So, okay, so queen c8, that gets the queen out of the d file as well, which anticipates and helps him to get his rook to d8 as well. Okay. Because remember, we always have to think about what our opponent can do as well. You know, we don't just assume that, oh, we can just do whatever we want, and our opponent's going to lie back and say, oh, give it to me. So that's not going to happen. Let me just update my chat in the channel again. What I'm going to try and do a little bit later today is I'm going to try and figure out this whole chat box thing, because then I can have a chat box on my screen, I think, and you can see it, obviously, and then it's in the stream as well. So literally everything you guys say is on the stream as well, which is fine by me. I think it's okay. As long as you guys don't do anything funky from a chat point of view, then it's okay. Okay, so so now obviously knight g4 is a threat. We again, you know, we assess the position, we look at it, we see if there's any immediate threats. So yes, there is. So then h3 makes logical sense. I'm not going to allow knight g4. Not a chance in hell. Okay. Now, what now? What does black play? Okay, we want to go queen c4. So maybe, let's see if he can stop that. What if he plays queen a6 or queen e6 maybe? Queen e6 maybe makes a little bit more sense, because then at least he also defends this knight, which we did have this discovered attack idea on. Okay? So queen e6 maybe, that makes a lot of sense. Then, okay, then obviously now we would just divert this piece, okay? Because we said that our bishop is probably the piece doing the least amount of work here. We can't move the knight yet, because the knight needs to defend these pawns, okay? And of course the knight doesn't have any good squares either right now. If ever black plays c5, then we'd have two nice outposts. So c4 is still our square that we wanted to hit, so we would probably just play bishop e2. And now, of course, we're just going to go to c4. This does look very strong. Obviously, this bishop needed to be rerouted anyway for us to have the open f-file, the semi-open f-file as well. So that's something to think about. Apparently that's not what he played in the game, so let's just see what did he play in the game. He played knight d7. Okay, knight d7 was played. And now, apparently, we need to look for something. Okay, well, I mean, the obvious here does look like something like bishop g4 does look quite obvious, doesn't it? There's a few reasons why. Okay, so let's just say bishop g4. f5 is not a possibility. He could play h5 though, but then he does weaken his own king. Maybe we can just let's look at something like that. If he plays h5, can we maybe just play bishop e2? Because now again, the bishop wants to come here. Okay, maybe we can't because maybe he can maybe play knight b6 or something. But again, his king is now much weaker than it was before. Note that as well. It's very important. His king is now weaker than it was before. Possibly we could also just take. I just want to look at this. Queen takes, rook goes here, queen goes, okay, e6 suggests. Yeah, I don't particularly like this that much. I think that he is okay here somehow. So yeah, maybe just drop back to e2. I think we just drop back to e2. Knight b6. Is there anything immediate? Oh, sorry, knight b6, obviously we can just take it. So he can't play knight b6. Okay, maybe he plays bishop c4 though. C5. No, then we can we just take it? Take, and bishop c4 maybe? And knight e6. Then rook d1? Because now he can't move his rook to d1, to d8. Because we just take on f7. And now we maybe have rook f6 ideas. Does look pretty strong. He still has a strong knight on b5 though, but on b4. But you know, it's not part of the game that we're playing. We're playing on the king side, it would appear. Okay, let's go back a little. So my question is just after h5, what do we do? Okay, let's have a look. Apparently bishop g4 was played and h5 was played as well. So so this is important. We need to definitely look at this position. Oh, there is something. No, maybe not. Maybe not. I thought maybe we have rook takes f6 or something. F7. Wow, my notation is horrible today. Rook takes f7, but he just takes on g4. You know, if we look at something like that, he just takes here, does he not? No. Now there's just trouble. This doesn't really work out so nice, does it? Okay. Is there any other spotty tricks for us? Any other tricks? Any other tricks up our sleeve? I mean, something like bishop takes h5 looks very tempting as well. I'm not gonna lie. Takes. Maybe just rook f5 or something. Queen e2 maybe. Just trying to see if there's anything concrete we can do here, you know. Yeah, queen e2 looks dicey as well. Knight here. We have bishop g5. When we are going to win this pawn, and his king looks very awkward. So that's definitely... Hi, Lord Axe. Welcome. Come join me. I need your expertise, sir. So this is our current position. Black just played h5, and it would appear that this is a critical moment in the position. I don't particularly want to trade off my bishop. my gameplay so far, let me just go back a little for you, has been all about c4. So queen f1 with the obvious attack on this f file, this semi-open f file, and then obviously h3 was just to stop knight g4 because we don't want to trade anything. And then after knight there, bishop g4, the pin now with the obvious threat of rook d1 because his rook can't move because of f7, and now h5. So after h5, I was looking at maybe bishop takes h5 as a wacky possibility. I was looking at rook takes f7 as another crazy one. Wow, is there? I just sort of, now I see something more on rook f7. If he takes here, can we maybe play queen? No, maybe I can play queen a6 then. Can we play queen here? I was just looking at this because after takes, then we just play rook here. If he plays, okay, queen e8, yeah. Because if he plays queen f8, then maybe we can play bishop h6 ideas. Well, we're not done yet. No, okay, no, we are done. Yawn. Okay, so this doesn't work. Maybe queen e6. Because remember, we're threatening this one now as well. So we're just going to take, and take. And we're threatening this as well now. Might be interesting. Maybe something worth looking at. Okay, no. That also just destroys. Or, yeah, like they say, knight f6. Oh, sorry, I could have played knight f6 earlier. Sorry, my bad, yeah. Knight f6 just stops everything. Okay, so no, that's obviously not there. But, we have to start looking at these kinds of things. Okay, so that doesn't look like it is correct. I don't want to take on d7 either. Unless there's anything funky, I don't particularly want to take on d7. There is bishop h6 as well, maybe. Possibly. Paso doble? Yeah, no, I saw Lord Axe. Okay, what? Okay, let's look at, I do have the line somewhere. Let's look at bishop takes. I just want to see, and after queen takes, what now? Maybe we have bishop h6. That makes sense because this f7 square is very, very awkward. So surely he can't move the rook. So we're just going to win an exchange, are we not? I mean, is this possible? It does look quite juicy. Or did I miss something? Okay, wait. That's what I missed. Yeah. What? Sorry? Got my keyboard working now, Jason. I invite some of my online friends as well. Thanks, Alvin. Mr. Cruz. Mr. Awesome Cruz. Yeah, okay, so that doesn't work because of the obvious counter shot, bishop c5. Okay, so no. But in this position, I was still targeting f7. So maybe we can play queen c4 still? That was the whole idea of queen f1 in the first place. Now with rook f1, what happens if he plays queen e6 though? I don't particularly like it because maybe we can just trade off and... Again, remember, in the endgame here, we're going to be better. We are going to be better in this endgame. Especially now if we double his 4 versus 3 majority on the king side as well. So maybe we just take, and I mean, I must admit that black is definitely not doing so well here from a pawn structure point of view. Okay, he's got a beautiful bunch of isolated pawns. But we do have this small issue of c2. See our c2 pawn. But okay, maybe it doesn't matter. Maybe we play something like rook f1. If he takes, we play here. If he plays here, we go bishop b6. Trading some pawns. If he takes, we take. He takes, we take. But, okay, we do have the pass pawn. That is our trump card. Maybe he goes bishop here, check. I don't particularly like it because we're just gonna come in, really. Let's just go to g3. Why not this way? I want to go this way. I want to go to c4 with my king now. I mean, c4 has been a pinnacle point in this whole game so far, so why not abuse and use it, huh? Okay, but yeah, that is the endgame idea. I don't know, is there anything better we can play if queen e6 is played? Doesn't look like it, huh? Don't really particularly like it, but you know, what options do we have here? Just want to look up if they look at the line queen e6 in the book. We don't, but that sucks because they should. So this is the problem I don't like about books, and this is why you need to go through it and you need to look at things yourself as well, because they don't particularly do a very great job at everything. Let me just show you what they do suggest. They say bishop h4 is the move that black played in the game. Okay, but then, you know, like I say, why don't they look at queen e6 as a possible option? I do think it's because of the reason that I just said. Because I mean, I don't see anything else here for white. I don't see anything better than taking on e6. I mean, like again, like I say, the endgame must be better because of the pass pawn. Must be. You know, we should have strong winning chances in this endgame because of this pass pawn. Is there any way you can save the pawn, maybe? No. Can he try and save the pawn earlier, maybe? Maybe you can play something like c5? No, that looks horrifyingly bad as well. No. Okay, so if he takes the time to stop us, let's say he plays c5 just as an option. Then after knight here, if rook goes here now, then c3. So now this pawn is weak, this pawn is... I mean, these pawns are just horrifyingly bad, so we don't have to worry about those too much. So that endgame looks miserable as well. The main endgame looks pretty bad as well, this one here. I don't like it. Okay, maybe there is some knight check there, knight b3 ideas. Bishop c7? Maybe bishop here? Just trying to find a way, but I mean, this pawn is a runner, eh? Okay, maybe that square is a bit of a nuisance. Maybe not. Because our knight defends, eh? So let's say if he goes something like that, we go king in here. If he takes here, we take, and he takes, then the pawn just runs. Note that pawn. That pawn is the killer. Okay. So I think if queen e6, we can just trade off into this endgame. Because I don't see anything good for black in this endgame here after rook there. I just don't see anything better for black here. Bishop d8 is never an option because then his own rook can't come into the game. Maybe he can play an open b file. Maybe something like this, and maybe rook b8. Because now, of course, he can move his knight maybe, and then attack our b pawn. Could be possible. We also still have to be careful of pinning our own rook and stuff. But okay, maybe just rook d2, entering on the open file. And again, if he tries to trade off, I don't... Well, maybe he can, huh? Maybe now he can play this. Because we're still going to lose that pawn. So maybe it's not that easy. Maybe it's really not as easy as we would have liked. Let me just update my chat again. Like I say, I am definitely going to look at this whole chat box option thing that you get, which apparently is nice, which will be in the stream as well. So then, you know, you guys are in the stream. Yeah, I'm not so sure. I like rook b8. Looks like a possible move. Okay, maybe we don't have to do anything drastic. Can we play maybe... Okay. I have an idea. Can we maybe play knight? Okay, that's the same thing really. But yeah, knight here or b1. Why? Because now we want to head to c4 again. Interesting. Me likey. So we have two options. We can go knight there. So if he ever moves his knight, then of course b3 should be fine. And then we can just charge here to here or here now. Or of course if he plays knight back here, then we can probably just play here. I don't see anything funky for him. Maybe he has this cheap trick. Yeah, he has tricks as well, huh? Annoying! Yeah. So this is not as easy as I would have liked. b3, knight goes back. Maybe rook d2 now. Because of the rook d2 now, at least, of course, we can play c3. And our knight's still going to head there. So if he goes like something like this, we can take, we can play c3. I don't really know where the knight's going to go. I don't really care either. Then knight's here. Because at least we're covering these two squares. So he can't attack our pawns. So these pawns are safe for now. And of course the c4 square is still a beautiful square for our knight. Whether it's winning or not is a different question. But I do still like the chances of white in this game, purely because of the 3 versus 2 majority. Let's make that a different color. So because of the majority, I still think that you have really good chances. And obviously he has these really bad isolated pawns as well. Double isolated pawns, beautiful thing to see. Okay, so let's go all the way back. So I don't know if Queen e6 was maybe better for black. Maybe it gives him some drawing chances. They don't even mention it, which sucks, but okay. So bishop h4 was played, and then, okay, rook d2 looks obvious. We don't have to think much about that, do we? And then apparently he played queen e7. So now, again, apparently, this is where we need to make decisions again for white. Now, we can play rook d1. Sorry, let me just see. I see people. Okay, cool. Hello, Mr. Chesswind. Bishop c5, I'm sure there's something. That's the problem. There's always something. Yeah, why not bishop c5? You know, we kind of run ourselves into going, why not bishop c5? Okay, bishop c5 apparently here. How's that? Attacking your rook. Counter. Welcome, Mr. Chesswind. Welcome. So yeah, so now he just counterattacks. It seems okay. Apparently, what? Let's say rook d7, knight takes c2, bishop takes f8, and rook takes f8. Now, of course, your king is suddenly starting to look a little awkward. Again, Mr. Axe, be very careful of hunting down material when your king is possibly exposed. Very, very careful. It can be very dodgy very quickly. So now, okay, if you play rook d1, we have that cheapo, threatening mate. Winning back the material, so it doesn't look so great. Black's up a pawn now, isn't he? Yeah, so after this position, it does look a little dodgy. Rook b1 maybe? Is there anything right away that we can play here? Queen check looks very tempting as well. Knight here looks very tempting as well. Good boy, Axe, good boy. Change your mind on that bishop c5 line. Yeah, it's just because he has the nice counter move queen g5. That's quite nice actually. So okay, so he goes. So obviously he didn't play it either. Rook d1. I don't know. After rook d8, does he really get anything from this? I mean, we already have control over the d file. The queen's already on c4, which is what we wanted finally as well. Okay. This bishop looks a little bit random now because as long as we keep our dark squared bishop, we're fine. So maybe we just need to go back onto the semi-open file. We had to move this rook now to the d file, where this rook was supposed to go to the d file, and we like the rook on f2. So maybe we just swap it around. Maybe we just go now and we go rook f1 now. Because we do want to put pressure on this pawn as well. There is some nice pressure here because of bishop there. If the pieces move, we get in here very, very quickly. So that's something to think about. Maybe rook f1. Well, no, it's not totally defended. Obviously, after rook d8, he can just come in here and fight for the file. But he's gonna have to be very, very careful how he does that. Again, because of the king position, that looks a little bit awkward. So he has to be very careful about that. Okay, let's have a look. Just want to see. So now, okay, obviously rook f to d8 looks very good. Maybe the other rook, I don't know. So he finally obviously comes into the open file now. Now it seems like the book. Okay, let me just quickly run through here. I just want to see blah 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 blah. Okay. Now we go back again. So now we've reached a position that we obviously now again we have to assess the position. Okay. So we've come this far. We've done everything we've wanted to do so far. Okay. We do have a rook in the d file. We have a rook on our semi-open file. We have a queen on a good square. Okay, this bishop is still controlling a lot of good squares, very good diagonals. Okay. Our knight is still the only real piece here that is not doing anything, but it is a fantastic defender right now. It has pretty much been, just holding our whole pawn structure together as well. So just something important to note. So now we have to assess the position again. So now we're going to go back. We're going to go back and we're going to look at the bunch of things that they told us in the beginning to look at. Again, I will make a list of them for you in the chat of the video itself, like same on YouTube as well. I'll put a little thing down there of the things they wanted us to look at. Okay, so let's look at the first thing, material. So again, if we look at the material, we know that it's equal. Okay, so not much to really be said about that. Okay, now is there any direct threats? Yes, there is. Technically, I guess there is a rook takes d. Just get rid of that. Rook takes d and knight takes c2. That is a direct threat. So be careful of that. Might not matter, but be careful of that. Definitely a threat. So the knight takes c2 thing is a threat. So there's something we have to look at, yeah? Okay, now the third thing we looked at was king safety. Let me just update my chat again. Ugh. Oh, I see. See, the tablet just died. I saw the Wi-Fi just went off. I don't know why that happens. It's annoying. But anyway. Okay, so the safety of the kings. Now, that is a very important question. How safe is both kings? Not an easy one to answer. So what do we look at? In general, when we look at king safety like this, what we want to do is we want to look at the number of attackers, on either king, the number of defenders on either king, and the number of pawns involved on the king sides. Okay. Okay. So if we're going to look at the pawns, let's just look at the most direct pawns here. There's 3 for black. Okay. And there is only 2 for white. Okay. But that means we do have the semi-open file, which does help us in the attack as well. We have how many pieces on the attacker's side here? We have 1, 2, 3. I would even include this one as well. So we have 4 attackers, and he only has 1, 2, 3 defenders. Okay, so we do have more attackers than defenders. So I would say that white's king is safer than black's king. Okay, let's just see whatever they say here. I just want to see if there's anything interesting. Okay, obviously they're just talking about the the weak squares around this king because the f7 pawn is under fire and the dark squares, are not protected currently. So, now we move again to the pawn structure. Now, if we have to just, think of all these pieces and take them all off, then on pawn structure, we're still definitely better because we still have the 3 pawns versus 2 pawn majority. So endgame wise, we're going to win this position once again because creating a passed pawn for us is much easier than it is for him. And of course, our passed pawn is way on the queen side where his passed pawn will be here where our king is already. Very important to note. Okay. Oopsie. That wasn't supposed to go there. Okay, so now, pawn structure, we do still know about the open files, of course, and all the diagonals. We've mentioned that already. So pawn structure looks favorable for us. I like the way things have been going so far. Okay, and now next on the list was the activity. Okay, so pawn structure, of course, it's all about files, diagonals, good squares, etc., which we have already looked at. Not much of that has changed. Okay. I will note, though, that this pawn has become much weaker as well since we last had. So that is a weak pawn to look at as well. Now, activity. Okay, so at this point, our rooks are active. Our bishop is good. Our queen is good. The only piece that is not so great is the knight. It's the only piece that I don't like so much. So at some point, we're probably going to have to get that knight in here. I just don't know where. Maybe c5. I'm trying to find a good square. Maybe we can do something crazy like maybe we can go there, there, and there. That looks like a good place to go to. I don't know if we have the time for all of that, but something to think about for our knight. Okay? Because what do you do when you're not quite sure if there's anything concrete? Improve your worst piece. We did this yesterday as well. So always improve your worst piece. How are we looking for time? Okay. Well, I think we're almost done in this position anyway. Okay, so activity, we're definitely much better because black is more defensive, I think. I mean, this bishop here is doing nothing at this point. There's no more threats on this diagonal from that bishop, so that's great, which means our bishop can finally move. This knight, I mean, it looks good, but it's not doing much. It is attacking c2, of course, but in a lot of cases, we're not going to care. Because if we can checkmate him, who cares? This rook is not doing a great job either. It's just sitting there doing nothing. The queen has to defend things, so not the best of places for the queen either to be. So white definitely looks better here. Okay, they go on and they look at all the pieces separately, which we just did now as well. So let's go. Let's talk about all this nonsense. Okay. Okay. There is still the threat. So he still has this rook takes d3 threat and knight takes c2 threat. Now, I did mention, what do we want to do? We want to improve. Are you afraid of the x-ray attack from the bishop with bishop e1? And if you remove your rook from f1, he plays bishop e1. In most cases, no, Chesswin, because in most cases you're going to be able to take on d8 and then your rook won't be there anyway either. So it's not something that you obviously keep a lookout for it naturally. I mean, it could happen, you know what I mean? But in a lot of cases, when your rook moves, it's going to be somewhere on the king side where you're threatening all kinds of nasty things like checkmates, etc., etc. So it's probably not something to worry about. But like we said, there is an immediate threat, and that is that he is threatened to play rook takes d2 and knight takes c2. So we want to improve our worst piece. Now, I mentioned something like knight there. Wait, what did I mention? Oh, knight there, huh? Yeah, knight there, there, and there. There is an alternative route. We could go knight here. And if he takes on d2, we can take knight takes d2. And then knight there and knight there. So that's an alternative route. And another reason why I want to move the knight is because then my queen will protect c2. So check out that move, knight b1. It looks so weird, but it is actually a beautiful move. There's more reasons as well. This knight could possibly go to c4 as well. Okay, but even if he doesn't take us, we have the idea maybe of playing rook takes d8, and then knight goes to d2 anyway, and to b3 and to c5. Okay? No problem, Chesswind. Okay, so yeah, so knight b1. I mean, knight b1. Let me just see what they did play. Hey, wow. Okay, I mean, okay. The players are white is Karpov. Seems like something Karpov would do. Black is apparently Spassky, I think. So yeah, so knight b1 gets a nice double exclam, beautiful move. Okay, and be honest, let me just read what they're saying here. Okay, obviously, okay. I mean, we could have come to the conclusion by just assessing the position correctly. And this is why assessment is so important. It takes time to learn to assess a position. But the more you do it, the quicker you get at assessing positions. And the quicker you get at it, then, I mean, so let's see, rook takes, bishop b6. Whoa, where are we now at, bro? Oh, yeah, no, Oh, you going back. Okay, let me just go back to that, Alvin. So you're looking at that bishop here. Let's, what, you said rook a8. And then bishop c5, and then maybe we play queen, okay, it says queen b7, but let's say queen e6. I know that black is giving himself a bad pawn structure, but now, of course, if you take here, I take back, and now you don't want to take here anymore because of that, and then you lose this pawn. So, okay, something like this maybe, like they suggest. Your main line, then they take knight takes c2. Maybe you don't have to move the bishop, but I mean, how are you going to defend your pawns? You can't play rook c2, c1, because of that. So black gets sufficient counterplay, Alvin. This is the problem. Now with the endgame, I mean, if we're going to lose material in this endgame and he gets activity, then it might not be so bad for him. Because after he takes on c2, he also has rook b8 on this open file here. So he gets sufficient counterplay to be okay in that line. So, okay, let's look at, okay, so after knight b1, again, like I was saying, because we just take the steps, we assess the position correctly, and we realize that our only piece that's doing nothing right now is our knight, then we find a path for the knight to get to a good square. So knight b1 is not the kind of move that we can't find. Okay, Carlsen can find it. So yeah, so a person like Carlsen can find a move like knight b1 in a 3-minute blitz game. Why? Because he can assess the position in like 2 seconds. Okay, so this is why we do this. We have to do this over and over and over again. This is what grandmasters do. They have been where we are now. We're looking at this position. We're learning how to assess a position correctly. They have been there. They've done this. They have learned how to do it, and they can just do it much faster and much more accurately than we can. That's it. It's all the difference it is between a player like me who is, 2100 versus a 2500. Well, yeah, but I mean, retreating is not so hard to find, Alvin, if you know why you're retreating. You're retreating because you need to find a good path for the knight to go to. All your other pieces are optimized. I mean, this bishop is fantastic. This queen is on the square we were looking for. Your rook's on the open file. Your other rook is on the semi-open file. So finding a path for the knight to get to a good square is not that hard a move to do. I really don't think so. I find in chess games now that I'm finding moves like that more and more and more because of doing assessment like we are doing now. I just want to read if there's anything interesting they say here. I don't care. Yada yada blah. Doesn't really matter. Okay. Black played queen b7. Okay. Okay, now the black would gladly exchange a pair of rooks. At this moment, this would be highly unfortunate, since after rook takes d2, knight takes d2, black must keep protecting both his c pawn and his e5 pawn. Okay, so they're just saying that obviously after rook takes, sorry, and after knight takes, black is going to have some problems with this, because we're also playing c3 now. We finally have the c3 threat as well now. That was another reason why you wanted to move your knight as well, is so that you can play c3. Okay, so that's another big reason for the knight wanting to reroute as well, because we want to get rid of this knight to obviously put pressure on his c-pawn as well. Just something interesting to note as well. Okay, so queen b7. Okay, why? What do they want to do here? What do they want to do here? Okay, so now it becomes tricky again. Why did he play queen b7? Comes a good question, isn't it? Why queen b7? Now there is a move here for black that I don't really particularly like. I don't like him getting bishop g3. But this is much harder, Alvin. Okay, finding maybe a move like maybe king h2. Now this is not easy, okay. But I do realize that out of black's pieces, this bishop can get strong on g3, and I don't want that. Now I don't need to change anything as of yet, because of course I don't want to move my knight, because I want him to take on d2 and then my knight wants to take. So my knight's not going to move yet. Not yet. Let me just refresh my chat once again. Because things were going lekker there, and it's because my tablet died again. Damn you, tablet! The Wi-Fi just keeps on turning itself on and off again. But anyway. So, okay, so finding a move like king h2 is going to be not that easy. Okay, and this I understand. Okay, the point just is that your king is better placed on h2. It's preventing the bishop from going to f after g3, which then also might have options of going to f4 or playing h4 and trapping your king in here. Because we want freedom to be able to use all our pieces. So we got to be slightly careful. Okay, so a move like that I understand. That is not an easy one to find. Okay. I don't even know if that's the right move, but I instinctively I like the idea, because right now I'm trying to be patient. I realize that I don't have to do anything crazy. Queen b7 didn't change the position, okay? But I do see that queen b7 maybe gives him ideas on this diagonal, so that if when my bishop wants to move, he has checks. And if his bishop is on g3, then my king starts looking very awkward. So I need to be very careful of just any mating nets like that. So king h2 to me makes sense, because I also want to see what does black play. It's another big thing. I want to see what does he do, because it becomes really awkward for him. He still can't take on d2. He doesn't want to. Okay. So, what does black play? Okay, so something obvious like king g7. Okay, because now obviously it also stops our bishop from coming in on h6. That was a good square that our bishop wanted to try and put some havoc on as well. So another reason why I played king h2 to be able to not have to worry about this diagonal. Okay, just in case you guys are wondering. So king g7 makes complete sense. Okay, now c3 looks obvious. I don't think we have to think about this much, because this knight really doesn't have any good squares. Knight a6 looks like the only square really. Let's just see if they say anything about if there's any other move that he played. Looks like he did play knight a6. Sorry. Now again, we have to stop. We have to stop, and we have to make decisions. Okay. We have a problem. What is our biggest problem in this position so far? Is that black is never going to take on d2, which means our knight's never going to get there. It's annoying, because I want the knight there. Okay, so, sorry, let me just get rid of these arrows. Go away, go away. So, our rook is in our own way. Problem. I don't like it. Alvin, maybe not. You have to be careful of moves like g3. Because, again, there's a golden rule, okay? In general, okay? Don't move pawns in front of your king, okay? Unless you're going to win material or something, or, that bishop's going to be trapped or whatever, then why help him? Because if we play g3, let's just look at this. Bishop f6 is an option as well, or bishop e7. Okay, sorry, we can't play bishop e7. My bad. So bishop f6, obviously, okay. But, I mean, The bishop is better placed on f6 than it is on h4. So why help him? I want to get my knight to d2, so I want to move my rook. But where does my rook go? Now, first of all, what I want to note now is that this d file for black means nothing. He's got nothing that he can do on it. So why don't we just move our rook? So where does the rook go? Maybe e2? If we play rook e2, again, there's no threats. And now we're threatening to go knight d2. He can't take queen takes b. Let me just show a variation quick. I just want to make a random move, like something like that. He cannot play queen takes b2 because of that. Okay? So then we're attacking his queen and attacking his bishop. So he can't take the pawn. So the pawn's immune for now. If if we play knight d2. Yes, it can be defended with rook d6. Yeah. Well spotted, Alvin. Well spotted. Then he can double up his rooks as well, and he starts getting counterplay. And we don't need that. We don't need that kind of stuff. Leave the bishop right here. It's doing nothing. It's fantastically out of the way for us, which is great. Beautiful. So after rook e2, what does black play? Oh, sorry. Let me just put the rook back. That rook doesn't make much sense there. So see, hey, rook e2 makes complete sense. Just want to see if they say anything. They're talking about preparing a kingside attack. Yeah, and d2 obviously has to be vacated for the knight. Okay, that's perfectly fine. They're just saying that rook takes d8 does not make sense because, obviously now, we have one piece less to attack with, and of course he still has the d file. So this move would not make so much sense as rook e2. I'd rather keep the piece on the board. So, okay, so after rook e2, now the question is what does black play? Okay, black apparently played rook f8. Okay, of course now black wants to rather get this rook to d8, and this rook on f8 needs to protect f7. Obviously also for reasons of maybe being able to move his queen, okay. So his queen can't move at this point because of f7. Okay. So rook f8 does kind of make sense, I guess, but as you can see now, black is purely defensive, which is great. King pawn, isolated king pawn. Well, black can't do anything to attack it. That's the whole point. That's the whole point of this position. Is because this beautiful queen on c4 protects everything and really puts a lot of pressure on the white squares and even on c6. So, I mean, for black to try and attack the e4 pawn is almost impossible. He'd need to get a knight to c5 or d6 even to try and get something like that. But the knight can't go to c5, and getting to d6 is going to take him a millennium to do. I'm even trying to find a path. Okay, maybe knight. Let me just get rid of everything. Maybe knight there, and there. Okay, well that's going to take him a long time to do. And in that variation, of course, if the rook is not on f8, then of course knight c7 is not possible because we can take on f7. So that's another reason maybe for rook f8, so he can get his knight into the game. Maybe even his knight to e6 and f4. Okay, so after rook f8, knight d2 looks very, very logical, does it not? Yep. So knight d2, obviously, again, he still can't take here because of knight f3, double attacking the queen and the bishop. So now, okay, now, I mean, let's just go see what black did play. Black played bishop d8. Okay, I mean, this looks desperate. Maybe he wants to play bishop b6 to just counterbalance this the strong bishop that we have. Okay. Maybe he also wants to protect a5 because knight b3 would have been attacking a5 as well, possibly. Okay, cool. I mean, here, knight f3 looks very strong as well. I mean, let's be honest here. Knight f3 just looks like a logical move here, because now what happens now? Now, if you look at the king side again, now let's stop. Let's stop again. The pawn structure hasn't changed. The piece's position has changed quite dramatically. Okay. There's no immediate threats for black as well, and the material is still equal. So the first thing was material, the next thing was a threat, and then obviously the next thing was king safety. So king safety if we look at king safety, now suddenly black has got the 3 pawns still against the 2 pawns, okay? But that means we have the semi-open file here for white, which is good. Black currently technically only has 2 pieces defending. And we currently have, sorry, 5 possible attackers, because rook f2 is still a possibility again now, etc., etc. So, I mean, this is just looking nasty for him. Really, this is looking really, really bad. So, king safety, suddenly the position has changed a lot. And if we look at the piece placement, the queen here was better placed on e7. The knight on a6 is now obviously worse because it was on b4. The rook is still on a8, still stuck doing nothing. Okay? So, white's pieces has improved whilst black's pieces has been pushed back. Great. We're doing a fantastic job now, aren't we? Okay, f6 is depressing, but that's pretty much the only real move that he can play. Yeah, it looks devastating, but I mean f6, like, I don't know. I mean, can he play bishop c7 maybe? Bishop f6 was also a possibility, possibly. Not that I like it. Just see if they have any variations for us. No, they don't. They don't look at any other variations. So let's just continue on with what he played. He played f6. So after f6, well, I mean, rook d2 looks obvious again now because ha ha ha, your bishop is stopping your pieces from going to that square. So okay, so rook d2, we just run back in there. Looks logical. We have very big threats here that he has to be careful of. And of course, if he's going to close the f-file, then we can just play rook d1 now as well. Now we can just double on the d-file as well if we want to. So let's have a quick look if there's anything interesting. So now he's changing his mind again, yeah, like they're saying. But he's saying that he's just being flexible. F bishop is 95. Yeah, of course. That's correct, Alvin. That's correct. That is correct, yes. You are correct, sir. You are correct, sir. So bishop c7 would have been crap, yes. So they just saying that he's very flexible here, yada, blah, blah, blah. Okay, so bishop e7 looks logical now because now the only way... I don't like bishop b6 because we can just take it and then rook d7 check and it just falls apart. Surely this position falls apart here. So bishop e7, obviously because he needs to now try again to attack the d-file with his rooks. Okay, let's stop. Find me a move. See if you guys can find me a good move here. I see a gaping hole. See a beautiful gaping hole right here. I'm just trying to see if there's, you know, anything that he can play that can stop us. So if we play queen e6, he can't play knight here because of queen takes e7. Okay, good. He can't play queen c8 to attack it because of queen takes e7. Knight c5 is impossible because of taking here, which is fine. Is there any crazy ideas? Takes. Yeah, sorry, can't take, of course. Knight c7 can't take, yeah. Okay, so knight c5 is not possible. Okay, so there's no way to chase our queen from e6. Okay, so rook a to d8, obvious. You know, we have to attack here, and this rook wants to stay here to just defend the f7 square and the f6 pawn as well, just in case. The f7 square is much more important, of course, because we have ideas of sacrificing here. So if this rook wasn't here, then we would just play knight takes e5 ideas. Maybe not immediately, because he has pins as well on our king. But we have ideas like that, or even knight g5. Knight g5 ideas as well. Because if the pawn moves, rook f7 would just be a devastating check. Just see, okay, so he did play rook a to d8. Okay, now apparently, okay. For the reasons I just mentioned, this rook needs to stay on f8. Okay, so we can take it now. Because if he takes back here, Can we now finally play this shot here? I just want to see if we can play knight takes g7 immediately. No, okay, knight g5. Sorry, knight g5. Because of course we're just threatening check and mate. And of course if he takes with this, like if he takes here, we go check here. Wherever the king goes, we can just take back. And now, of course, the king is just falling apart anyway. It's actually mate. Queen f6, queen g7, mate. So that looks terrible. So he can't take the knight. And after, let's say something like rook f8. Can he play rook f8? It's playable. Maybe now just rook d7. Coming back here. I guess he can protect. He can maybe play knight knight c5 or knight b6. Knight b8, I mean. No, knight b8 must be the only move, sadly. Okay, so maybe he can defend this. Maybe he can still hold. Maybe he can hold on. Just a teensy weensy bit, maybe. So after rook takes, let's have a quick look if they look at anything. Okay. So my idea was correct here. I did think knight takes, but I was looking at this as a possibility. I just didn't like that. Just didn't like that one. Maybe there's bishop b6 ideas. Is that a crazy idea? Oh, of course, we can still check, man. My bad. Sorry. That's a bit of a duh, but yes, we can still check. That is a problem, because after king h8, you can't go king h6, of course, because... Oh, well, there's a bishop there. After that, is there just maybe... Whew, crazy stuff. What do we play now?